It is just gone 7 o'clock on the 3rd of February 2015. Is 2015 the year that you make it rain in business? Is it the year that delivers the success that you're after? Of course, there are many ways that one can be successful, but for this show in particular, we're just zooming in, focusing in on business. Is this the year that we're going to be successful in business? Basically, in SA as well, to make it rain in business, you got to have a properly registered business. You're talking about legally operated business. And to do that, you need to make contact and be in conversation with an organization called the CIPC. Now, the CIPC, it's the Companies and Intellectual Property Commission. These are the individuals that help us to register our businesses so that we can go for that tender, that contract, and be successful, hopefully one day, provided that, of course, you do your crosses and dots and follow up, whatever it is. And that is the crux of the show tonight. CIPC, all about using their online system. Good evening to you and welcome to the show. This is Small Business Connect. My name is Herman and I'll be your host up until 8 o'clock tonight. Of course, I'm not alone. We're joined by the publisher of Small Business Connect, Christoph Oosthuizen. Let's just say a quick hello and welcome to him. Hello, Christoph.
Hi, Herman. Today I'm playing a backroom role. I'm really forward to hearing what Vanessa and the Commissioner has to say about all the new developments at the CIPC and the ironing out of the challenges that some people have had in going over to the new online system, which is really the way for us to go in business to make things easier. So I'm looking forward to learn. I see in the past few weeks we've had quite a few questions coming in terms of both readers of Small Business Connect and other business owners and practitioners that are acting on behalf of business owners. In fact, because we are doing this over a few weeks, of course we can really get into the substance of things too. So from my side, I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope that it will offer lots of value to everyone that's signing in. I see there's already quite a list. It runs over my, I have to scroll down to see. We're about 40 people on the call now already, it looks like. So, yeah, looking forward to this, and back over to you.
Great, thank you very much there, Christoph, and we also welcome the Commissioner, Astrid Ludin. She's the Commissioner of the CIPC. Good evening, Astrid, and welcome.
Good evening, Herman.
And how are you today, tonight, ma'am?
I'm a little bit anxious, nervous about the kind of questions I might get, but that is what this is all about. It's about communicating with people.
Great, thank you very much. And also welcome a practitioner, a business consultant, Vanessa Naidu. Vanessa, good evening and welcome to the show.
Hi, good evening, Herman. Good evening, Astrid.
Hi.
Of course, Vanessa is going to be looking at the practical aspect of our show tonight, whereas the Commissioner is going to be looking at the back end, the information from the CIPC, and we're also going to be fielding a few questions. Some of them have been submitted already, but we encourage you. I always can get confused when it comes here. Is it a listener? Is it a viewer? But you're more than welcome to submit through the questions. The team down in Cape Town will be monitoring our Facebook page. You can do that on Facebook. Also, you can send through the email info@smallbusinessconnect.co.za. So before we get into it, I wanted to ask Christoph, but I think he did touch on it a little bit. The Commissioner, Astrid, the decision that you guys took to do this show, I know you said it's all about communicating, it's all about sharing information, but can you share just a little bit before we start looking into the questions for tonight? What was the big drive to have the show online?
Well, for us, Herman, this is really an opportunity to be able to reach out. We realize as an organization that it is hard for people to get hold of us, and so we thought this might actually be a very good tool for people to be able to contact us and ask questions and get some responses from us. So that's really what we're hoping to be able to do, to have a direct interface and communication with people.
Excellent. Christoph, from your side as SBC, I mean, this is, I take it this delivers to, on your mandate as an organization, that you really trying to connect entrepreneurs with the information that's out there from organizations such as the CIPC.
Yes, of course. We had Astrid on a Small Business Connect radio show towards the end of last year, and the response of people showing up for that show was so good that we thought, let's have this discussion. And as I say, I think most government officials would rather not be engaging in this way. So I really respect the people at the CIPC for being open and willing to go into these discussions with the audience. Yeah, as a small business operator myself, I've used the online service, and I must say that I haven't had the frustration that some of the other people that have complained about things have had. In fact, I found it smooth running and easy to use. So I suppose you know, sort of people that may have had issues with their browsers or their security settings or whatever those issues are, might have been vocal about not being able to do the things that they wanted to do. But as an end user, be it not as a practitioner that does it every day, I found shifting over to the online system as something that really made it easier for me to do things like registering of IP and submitting the information that we need to do on a regular basis as well. So I hope that through this call as well, through this forum, we can address those issues that people may have, so that everyone can have this experience of it being a marvelous system.
Awesome, thank you very much. Now let's get right into it. 7 minutes after 7 p.m. Commissioner Astrid, first question that we received, or one we're going to field tonight, the first one comes from Bongi Numalos, and the question goes, why does it take so long to register a company in SA? Is it the process or lack of human resource? Why can't we learn from other countries like Botswana, where it only takes 3 days for the whole process? Or SARS, where you can get a tax number and a tax clearance on the same day, etc., etc. So yeah, I think that's the crux of the question. Why does it take so long to register a company in SA?
Well, I think it depends on what method you use to register a company, and that will determine the amount of time. I think what people also need to know is that when they register a company with us, we in fact send the information to SARS, and that's why you get a tax number from SARS very quickly after you've registered. So we have various options available for people for registration, and the quickest way to register is actually through one of the self-service terminals that we have. And then it also depends on whether or not you reserve a name. So I think, you know, I'm giving you a long answer, because if you register a company manually, it would take 25 working days. If you register through FNB, it'll probably take 3 working days. If you register through a self-service terminal and you register only a company, it should be a very quick process. It should happen on the same day. Right now, we are experiencing some, we certainly have a backlog in the e-services company registrations. So what happens is you capture your application online, and then the back office staff review that and release the transaction and effectively approve it. And their turnaround time should be 3 days, but they're currently working on applications received on the 14th of January. So there are various issues. It's not a shortage of staff. It is about people in the organization becoming sufficiently used to our processes. So those are, you know, internal issues we're working through. But actually in South Africa, company registration should be comparable to other countries in the world. When you talk about Botswana, I think the only thing you need to remember is, I don't know how many companies they register in a month, but it's probably not much more than between 300 to 600 companies. We register over 22,000 a month. That's where the difference comes in.
All right, cool. Two more questions from Bongi, and I'll fill the other ones that are coming through. Obviously, some of these will be similar, and I really hope that the listeners are online with us through the end of the show. But like Christoph said, there's going to be a podcast as well, I think in the next few days or so. Second question from Bongi says, why does the contact center always, or the call is always ringing and it's not answered? Sometimes she says he holds on for about 5 hours without an answer. Well, I don't know about 5 hours, but yeah. You call the call center and it takes a while before your call gets answered.
Well, I think I said this before on this show, is the reason why it takes long is because we don't actually have a call center. We have a call center number, but in the back end, it's staff answering the calls. And they struggle to balance answering calls, answering emails, answering queries that are logged on the query system, as well as, of course, so it's the processing and the answering of the calls. As we have improved the efficiencies in the organization, we're making more and more time available for staff to deal with queries and also to deal with calls. But organizationally, we're not quite there yet. And that's why we're doing things like this show. It's, as we realize, it's very difficult to get hold of us. And so we need to get information out to people.
Okay. Last one, is CIPC planning to roll out to other regions because the head office is only in Pretoria?
Yes, we have the self-service centers. We have one in Sunny Park in Pretoria. We have one in the Carlton Center in Johannesburg. We have an office in Cape Town, and we're going to be installing self-service centers there. And we also want to establish a presence in 2 further provinces next year, 2 to 3 provinces. So we are planning to roll out nationally, not necessarily for us to have offices everywhere, but through partners to make sure that people can use these self-service terminals nationally.
All right, cool. Thank you very much there. I hope Bongi satisfied with the responses there. Moving on to one of the questions that came through a few seconds ago, if I can just scroll back. From Mealy, it says, I realized that this is a discussion to verify how to use the online system. But another question, or the question is, what is happening with the disclosure section? It has not been functional since the beginning of last year, and almost no applications have been processed. The online system for copies is not speeding up the process as well. That's a question for Millie.
Millie, I would need to just double check. I don't get a lot of complaints about disclosures, and I usually can see in the organization where the problem areas are based on the number of complaints we receive. So I would need to double check back in the office to see if there are any backlog problems. I am, as I said, not aware of it. What is very important is that you do apply online on the new website, because that way the managers can hold the staff accountable. So if you've been using that system and you're still finding a problem, I think you need to either log a query on the query resolution system, or alternatively, if you have a particular problem, you can email me. I think I've made my email address available previously. It's aludin, ALUDIN @cipc.co.za. So, and if you've got a lot of outstanding disclosure requests, please send the whole list through. I think it is important, though, that you don't do it manually or email the documents, but that you apply on the new website.
All right, cool. Let me just confirm that email address again, aludin@cipc.co.za.
That's correct.
All right. Another question that came through from, I think, Melvin. His question goes, good evening, Commissioner. I did a manual transaction for a client in September 2014. I still did not receive the certificate, though the name has been approved. What steps do I need to take? Is it possible to apply as an agent for CIPC because the region I'm from does not have the necessary offices for people to register? I think there are two questions there.
Yes. So let me start with the issue about the agent. We don't register anybody to be an agent for the CIPC, but you can register as a client, and then you can transact on behalf, for example, of other people. If you want to register a company, then you just submit the application on their behalf, effectively, to us. And you can do that, you do that with your own customer code. So we don't regulate it at all. If you make director changes, you need to have a mandate from your clients. Otherwise, you can just transact on their behalf. And the other question was about a manual transaction. You said the name was reserved already. I think it's difficult to give you direct feedback on it. If you submitted the application in September, it should have been processed by now. And if it wasn't processed, you need to either log a ticket on the query resolution system or send me an email so that we can follow up internally.
All right, great. If you just joined in, we're chatting to the Commissioner, Astrid Ludin, from the CIPC about using their online system. Few questions have been coming through, and we're going to be looking at those throughout the show tonight. I've also got Vanessa, the business consultant, on the line. Let me just pull it in. Commissioner, I see your screen is getting darker.
Yes.
I hope you're not load shedding.
I don't think there's load shedding, but there's no light in the room I'm in. Is that better?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, the light is better on there. All right, good. Let me just hand over to Vanessa quickly. Vanessa, over to you.
Okay. Hi, Astrid. How are you?
I'm good, Vanessa. How are you?
Good, good. It's actually very great talking to you. And I also, I think it's great that you're doing this show. My experience with CIPC, with the new website, it is user-friendly. I mean, I've been able to do the applications online, the director changes online. The only problem is getting feedback from CIPC once I lodge the director changes or the name reservations and the company registrations. I've had outstanding since last year, December, that I'm still waiting for. I did the name change in November. I only got feedback now in January. So those were my issues around the CIPC.
Yes, I think that the difficulties arise in those areas where you require back office response, either a processing, such as the case of a name change, because a lot of these functions are not purely automated. So you might apply through the website, but there's somebody in the back office that then reviews those applications. Of course, we have automated some of the processes, so a address change is a fully automated process, and a financial year-end change. So those transactions don't require any back-end intervention. So
yeah, that has been fine. I've used that, and that's fine. It's just when we have to submit documentation, when we have to email it, and we wait for the director changes. I've had instances where I've done name reservations and I've got it within 2 days. But recently, I've been waiting, well over the service delivery time, over the 5 days, and still no response. I've lodged tickets, still did not get a response as well.
Okay, so look, I think the reality is with tickets, it's something we need to embed in the organization, and it's a new way of working, and it's ensuring that we get more accountability. So we are implementing, including the measurement around those things in the performance management system for the next year. So I think it's a change process in the organization. And I know for practitioners it was very hard when we closed the front office, because that's where a lot of people used to have direct communication. The reality is that we have a lot more processing capacity, but it is about streamlining it. And last year organizationally we went through a lot of change. Change always brings a lot of challenges. So it's about bedding it down internally and externally. However, name reservations now, my understanding is that they are on a 1 or 2 day turnaround time. I might not have the latest information. Electronic directed changes, I believe, are also up to date. The problem is with manual transactions. And we know that we have a problem on new company registrations. That is more of a staff problem, and that's something that we are addressing. I realize that it has a big impact on business people, but also on practitioners. So one of the strategies that we've had and that we are developing is essentially to make available to practitioners such as yourself a technology that's very similar to what we're using in self-service terminals. It just requires a little bit of development on our part. But we think in that way we can make the biometric verification and the automated processes associated with that much more accessible. I think the reality is these things take time to develop. That's our constraint.
Okay. And I had to say it as well. I did get name reservations within 2 days, and but I guess we have to wait for a little while now just to go through the old process.
But are you finding that when you log a query on the system, are there some transactions you get responses on, or do you not get a response from anybody on your tickets?
No, none of my tickets.
And are they all company registration related?
Yes, they're all company related.
Okay, so in company registration. Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to work on that some more.
Okay, that was the one that I had. The other one, I'm looking for more guidelines on the processes.
Okay.
That's
on the website or
on the website itself, and more direction on the processes, on application.
Okay. Yeah. Have you looked at the actual website itself, and on the main part of the website where it tries to take you through those processes? Does it not give you enough guidance?
It did, but as I said, it's not. It doesn't give you a lot of information that you can go back on. When I had the issues where my tickets were not responded to, I went back, to follow the process, and there isn't. We don't have much information on how we can track it on any other way, except the tracking system, the ticket system.
Okay. I think what I can do is note the points, and we can go back and work on those some more.
Okay. All right. That will be great.
One of the things we wanted to do, Vanessa, was to provide training on the actual, so demonstrations and an interactive opportunity for practitioners actually around the country. So is that something that you would find useful?
Yes, no, absolutely. That will definitely help. It will definitely help. It will, give us a little bit more help with our clients. We can take the information back to them, and we can give them a better turnaround time.
Okay. We'll take that forward then.
Thank you. Okay. Back to you, Herman, for now.
I see a lot of questions
Yeah.
in the chat. So perhaps in the absence of Herman, we can look at some of those questions.
Yeah, if I can step in, I'm not sure. I'll send Herman a message quickly. It looks like maybe he's sitting in PE, by the way, so maybe the internet is a bit congested there. But in the question section, I've noted while you were talking some interesting comments, and of course there are many people that are sitting with specific issues around delays or frustrations that they may have in sorting out something very specific. So I suppose, Astrid, if what should the question would be, what should people that are in that situation do when it comes to not having the concern that they have or the delays that they're experiencing? What can they practically do to sort that out for themselves? I must just note, maybe before you answer that there are quite a few people that are commenting and commending you. Melvin, for instance, says that he really appreciates, sort of that you're on the call answering the questions, and there are a few more if I page down. I can't see another name now quickly.
I think there are a lot of questions.
And so on that are saying thanks for being here, sort of. So I just want to note that sentiment first. But yes, so there are a lot of questions that are practical. Even some people have put their reference numbers there. You've given your email address very bravely. So may people contact you if they get stuck in this way, or what would sort of, they obviously need to, as you explained, go through the ticket issuing process first. By when, if they are about to give up and stop doing business, can they? What is the recourse? What could they do?
Well, we always say that we have an escalation process. We have also established an internal ombud, and his email address should be on the website. You can send him an email if your matter is not resolved. Alternatively, people send me emails too. I do get a lot of emails, and it depends on what I'm doing in the evenings, because I usually tend to be quite busy during the day. So I might not get your email immediately, and that's why it's quite important that people do log a ticket on the query resolution system on the website. Then you have proof that you've logged the query, and if you give a staff member your ticket number, they should be taking it seriously. Remember that the query resolution system is there to enable us to hold people accountable.
So one of the comments was, after issuing logging a query, it became apparent that they're not going to get any reply on it, and they logged another one, a new query. And in fact, then the issue was resolved through issuing a new query. So should people resist doing that, or is it okay to log a second query if you don't get a response on the first query?
Look, I think it's not going to. What happens if you log another ticket? It just adds to the volume of work that people need to get through. But I understand the frustration. I think if you're not getting a response on your query, then it's better to start escalating it rather than to log another ticket for the same matter.
Yeah, good. I see Herman is coming back. I'll gladly hand over to him. But yeah, I see in the question section there's a bit of a different question from what we've discussed in the past, and it relates to IP. So we've been talking a lot about company registration and the new system being responsible for sort of logging or registering companies. Could you perhaps explain to us how the new system deals with IP and the registration of trademarks and that as well?
Well, we introduced e-filing for trademarks, patents, designs, as well as copyright in films. Last year, or the year before, in fact, from I think it was around November 2013, through to February 2014. So the e-filing capability for trademark applications and all the other intellectual property applications already existed and have remained on the website. I think the biggest difficulty that individuals would face is that the South African law requires that these kind of applications, not for copyright in film, but the other applications have to come through an attorney. Certainly for patents and designs, you need to log your application through a patent attorney or somebody specializing in designs.
Okay, I will hand over back to you, Herman, and move back to looking at the chat room. I must say there's a lot of activity on the chat room and questions being posed, as well as sentiments expressed of frustration of questions not being answered immediately in the chat room. So maybe, Herman, if we can just clarify what we're doing in terms of posing of questions in the chat room, is that the purpose of that is not necessarily to be able to answer it straight out. We don't have someone from the CIPC actively answering the questions in the chat room, but it is for us to be able to record them so that we can address those questions as we go on. We've got, we're going for the next 2 months, in fact, we're going to have these discussions. And we'll also be, we've got, since people have registered for this call, we've got your email address. We will be sending out communications around the recording of the answers so that you have reference to that too. So hopefully, you know, sort of in the process of covering all of these questions over the next few weeks, we'll be able to address most of the concerns. But I think, as we've already noted, a lot of the questions are relating to it being a new system and adjustments that the CIPC is making in the way that it's operating. So, Herman, if I can then hand back to you.
Sure, thank you very much, Christoph. Apologies, internet played a game on me, but we're back live again. That email address for the commissioner is aludin@cipc.co.za. I think Christoph did mention that some of these will forward to the commissioner as well, and we've got a few more weeks coming up that we're going to be tackling this, some of these questions, and a few more, I suppose, that are coming through. Astrid, one question that I wanted to ask before I logged out from Nokupiwa says some company I didn't register was registered under my customer code, and I requested a refund but never received it. And one company was registered twice under my code and also didn't get a refund. She emailed the department but no response. Can you perhaps come in on that?
Yes, the process, what needs to happen is she needs to get a credit note, and then what happens is that's credited to your account, to your customer code. So you need, I'm not sure who you sent it to, it would need, you could log a query on that. In fact, I would recommend that you log a query and you upload all your documents. If it's been long outstanding, please send me all the details and I'll make sure that the relevant person internally deals with it. Herman, one of the questions I saw coming up a lot in the chat, I'm not able to respond to these things quickly enough and to chat as well to you, is that we're not meeting our service delivery standards, and why is it taking so long for new company registrations? I think we fully accept that there's a backlog on new company registrations. The team, according to the information I received today, is busy finalizing applications they received on the 14th of January. So they have not met their 3-day turnaround time for quite a long time. It is not a system problem. It is an internal problem. It's a back office problem. And I can only ask people to bear with us. It is, you know, it's more of an internal labor and staff problem rather than anything that's system related. And please, the service delivery standards are there because we are accountable for those. We make public, we report on those in Parliament, we report on those to the Minister, and we do measure them. So we are aware when we're out of our service delivery standards. And in the last quarter of last year, we definitely were in many, many areas. That is because of the changes we introduced in the organization, but also because there was labor instability in our organization. So those are things that we're working on. And as I said, I think the big backlog at this stage is in new company registrations. The staff have agreed to what we call internally an incentive system, and they are working very hard to work in those backlogs. So if there are any other areas of backlog that people outside are aware of that I'm not aware of, then please bring those to our attention. And as I said, my email address is available.
All right. Nokupiwa, I think, did respond. She said she did log a query, but she will end up sending you an email instead. I think for more follow-up on that. I think responding to your answer where you said she can just log a query. And then there was another point that Kantha Naika, she said the query resolution system does not work. How often do you guys get these sort of questions? I mean, the query system where people log a query, is it handled by the same team or different team?
No, it's the staff who are responsible for processing the work. They need to deal with the queries that relate to their area of work. And so in those areas where there are big volumes or where there are backlogs, the staff isn't always good about dealing with their queries. The query resolution will only work if we all make it work. You see, I think one of the things people need to appreciate what's happening is that individual staff members are getting queries in the query resolution system and in their emails, and they're getting calls. They do not have the capacity to deal with everything. So we do need to work together, especially people who transact with us on a larger scale, and they do need to support the systems that we put in place. You can't say that if after 2 months something hasn't been bedded down that it's not going to work. It will work if we all make it work.
Awesome. The email address, I think someone asked me to spell it out. It's Ludin, A-L-U-D-I-N. A-L-U-D-I-N at CIPC.co.za. I think we covered that one. Another question, Astrid, from Renee. As of this week, it seems as if the director or CC member changes are now requiring a unique email address for each director or member. However, for most small companies have shared email addresses. This results in the online document not being accepted. Can CIPC please take this into account and change their online requirements?
I'm not sure that I understand that fully. But I will have a look at that, and we'll certainly have a discussion internally.
All right. Do you want me to reread it again, or you will attend to it? I think it relates to the point of changing members. Some small businesses use one email address. Now it asks for unique email addresses for each director or member.
Oh, yes. No, look, let me explain that. That is actually very important. The email address or cell phone number, we need to have those details, because remember what happens is that sometimes people in a partnership, in a business, have a falling out. And when there's a dispute, sometimes what happens, we see this very often, is that people then try and resign each other from a company. If we have your email addresses, it's very important that we are able to get hold of you and send you a notification so that you are aware of any changes that are being made in your company. That's why we need the details, both the email addresses and the cell phone numbers of people so that we can contact them. It is very important. It's going to be very important in the future. Because we need to be able to contact the individual directors, not one designated person. I think it's different in a business that's larger, that has a company secretary who is accountable for anything that happens in the company by law. So, not everybody appoints a company secretary, even though people may have individuals that do company secretarial work for them. It's important that we are able to contact the people, the owners. I know also, we've had some feedback from some company secretaries and some company secretarial firms that it's very difficult when some of the owners, some of the directors are overseas. But we have actually found that when they've made contact with them, those directors have been willing to make their contact details available to us. So I urge everybody to make sure that we have the correct contact details for you.
Okay. Another one from Dadi Raya Agnes, hope I got that right. She asked, I cannot log a ticket because I don't have a login ID because it does not accept my password and surname details. What do I do in that situation?
Please send me your details. I think if I remember the query, this person was saying that they're a permanent resident but they don't have an ID yet. That might cause a problem in terms of the customer code, although we can register it with the passport number, but those tend to be manual processes. So if you send me the email, I'll forward it to the correct person in the organization to deal with it. Some people may also find is that they're not able to log a ticket because the password that is linked to their customer code, when they enter that password, the query resolution system doesn't accept it. Those are exceptional cases, and in those cases what we need to do is our ICT in the back end needs to synchronize it. So again, you need to send us an email. You can send me an email to say that you have this particular problem and we can direct it perfectly.
Awesome. In my quest to read the questions, I may have missed this part, but I will ask it. Bonisile said, if the CIPC is registering around 22,000 companies per month, as the commissioner is claiming, surely they have to consider setting up a call center infrastructure. Back office staff cannot be expected to execute the tasks and still deal with telephone queries. I don't know if you did cover the response around setting up a call center.
No, I think that is the question that people don't generally understand. Why can't we just outsource call center or set up call center elsewhere? So that is not, the difficulty is that for a call center to be able to be useful, people want their particular queries to be able to be resolved. And systems that we're working from are old. We have spent 3 years upgrading them, but I think that there's probably another 10 years of upgrades ahead of us as an organization. So we need to work within the constraints of what we have. And one of the things that means is that the only way we can actually set up a call center that can assist people is by setting it up on our premises. So because that way they can actually access, the agents can access the systems and give people direct feedback or resolve the questions right there. So what happens is we've tried to set up a call center, but there are telephony issues. We need to create our own lines. So there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to go into it. And these things are just not simple. And I think people need to understand that in the public service, we deal with the PFMA, we deal with procurement rules. The lead time on procurement is anything from 4 to 6 months. So I'm not making excuses. What I'm trying to explain to people is that in the public service, it's not just about snapping your fingers. Even if you have the funds, there are a lot of governance processes that we need to observe. So the lead time on implementing changes tends to be quite long. So there's a lot of improvement that we can make and that we will make, but there are no quick solutions to the issues that we face. What we need to do is we need to be able to get transactions, quicker turnaround time on our transactions. Hopefully then we'll have fewer calls, and then staff can be focused on resolving the few queries and they need to be able to resolve.
Awesome. Another question there quickly, straight from Sia. He says, I know CIPC does not have agents per se, like BE verification agencies and that, but the fact remains is that there are still thousands of people in remote areas that are unable to reach, I think, the offices. Would you be willing to consider collaborating, like us, in helping CIPC reach out to more people?
We're quite clear that we don't want any agents because we don't want to take responsibility for the actions of intermediaries. You know, we deal with fraud that happens every day, and we know that there are a lot of intermediaries out there, and that most of them don't commit fraud. But unfortunately, the number of fraudulent matters that we do deal with, that fraud perpetrated from the outside, people abusing other people's customer codes, people's money, and not processing transactions. In that context, we don't want to have a registered network of agents. What we are looking at, however, is providing tools for people who do want to be intermediaries. And what we need to clarify is whether or not, when we make certain of those tools available, which will make it much easier for people who want to act as intermediaries, whether or not we need to regulate the kind of price that they charge, because, you know, we'll be giving them tools that will make it a lot easier and quicker to transact. So we are looking at this as a model. We recognize that as an organization we can't reach everybody, and that the footprint requires, if we really want to be able to assist everybody in the country, we need to be electronic, but we also recognize that not everybody's comfortable with transacting electronically on their own. And so that's where the role of intermediaries can come in, or our officers. So it's a combination of the two.
All right. Another question from Melvin says, Commissioner, I have registered a company in 2012, and an error was made on the part of the CIPC whereby one letter in the company's name was incorrectly typed as a 0 and not an O. What can I do to rectify this?
If the error was made by the CIPC, then you need to log a query, you need to ask for correction. We do make corrections on our side. I think you need to just submit proof of the error. So if we made the error, it's a relatively easy thing to correct. You just need to get that email to us, and you need to log a query under corrections.
All right. I think this is just a note. She did send through an email from Ashla. Says, thanks for a lovely fair show. Hope this is the beginning of new hope for a better performance. I hope you got my email regarding our cooperative. She also put in a registration number there. We'll forward you this and other questions as well. Here we go. Hope I got that right. Commissioner, KZN has 61 municipalities. I think you did touch on this. Shouldn't CIPC consider setting up shop in KZN?
Yes, definitely. We should be considering it, and we are considering it. Remember, what we're looking at is establishing these self-service centers, which are centers where you can transact on these terminals. They're not branches of the CIPC. It's about assisting self-service.
All right. And Vukile asks, I registered for my IP months ago twice and still no response. Why there is no response? Is CIPC IT department struggling?
If you've made an application for intellectual property, it depends on what kind of transaction it was. Our service delivery standard is to give you an application number within 5 days, and I think the average turnaround time is about 3 days. So you should have an application number. Once you get an application number, there's a whole long process, and in fact, it can take probably up to a year to register it. We need to publish, or it needs to be published for objection. So you will find the details of the process on our website. you can click on the website on the main page on protect your intellectual property or protect your IP. And there you will find in the different areas, trademarks, patents, designs, the detailed processes. So it does take a long time, IP. It's not inefficiency on our part.
Okay. Nhlanhla also sent another question, says the name change fee is a tad bit high. It's got nothing to do with the system, just the fee.
Well, we don't really want to encourage too many name changes, except for that first name change if you've registered a company with a number. And so that process we're going to be working on to make it a lot quicker, and we're actually trying to automate it to the extent possible, so that it's an almost instant process. But later name changes we don't really encourage, because generally we find that name changes are associated with people who buy shelf companies. And I think some people who've been transacting with us know that shelf companies are my least favorite type of entity, because shelf companies are the most expensive way. That is the most expensive way to register a company, and it causes a lot of workaround for us as an organization, and a very long wait for the client, because you think you buy a company quickly, then you have to do a name change, you have to do a director change, you have to do an address change, you have to change everything about that company, and invariably it takes close to a year to get all those things changed. So don't let clients, for business people out there, I recommend that you rather try and register a company without a name rather than try and do buy a shelf company. And for intermediaries who sell shelf companies, I think I would request all of them to review the practice and to rather go for first-time registrations for their clients.
All right. 8 minutes before we say goodbye, we chatting to the Commissioner of CIPC, Astrid Ludin. Mark Ferner asked the question, I figured out how to access my ticket by starting to log a new one. How does one go about escalating it if I see no activity on the ticket?
Well, actually, the system escalates it itself. But if you don't see any action, for example, what should happen is somebody should either be responding to your ticket or they should be assigning it to someone. And if you don't see anything like that happening, then you should send the Ombud an email, and his email address is on the website, the CIPC Ombud.
All right. And then a few messages that came through from Nadine. This must be very stressful for you. Thank you for taking the time to share with us, but much needed for customer service. Just a comment, but I'll put it in there. And then I think there was a question from Sibusiso. Says, I've filed actually for company name change last year, March. Till now, nothing has happened. Please help.
You should definitely send me an email so that we can follow up and find out what happened.
All right, so the email address is aludin@cipc.co.za. Send through your question directly to the Commissioner, and she will attend to it, just like other questions as well.
Herman, there's one thing that many people aren't aware of that might be useful, which is that on the e-services, on the website under e-services, people can actually check the status of their transaction if they go under transaction status, and it will tell them what the problem is with the transaction. So if it's been in process for a very long time, then there clearly is a problem and it needs to be escalated.
All right, cool. I'll take this last question before I bring back Vanessa and Christoph. This one from Sean. In public forums, the Commissioner makes the system sound efficient and as if the problem areas are minor and easily rectified. But in practice, this does not happen, and it is impossible for the public to address them because there is absolutely no way of engaging the key staff to sort it out.
Well, you know, we used to have a escalation process in the organization. It was a three-tier escalation, and that was published on with the service delivery standards on the website. But we got a lot of complaints from people saying that the escalation didn't work because staff, the responsible managers, didn't respond to the queries. So that's why we implemented the query resolution system. I think I fully understand the frustration that people are feeling, and you know, we are putting in place the processes internally to hold people accountable. And I think, you know, unfortunately, this is just going to take a little while to really embed in the organization. So
All right.
you need to keep logging those tickets, and we are reviewing it. In fact, we do review the statistics twice a month. We look at all the statistics, the service delivery standards. We have a meeting with all the staff, and everybody has to account for it. And that's where we try and iron out the problems that exist.
All right. Before we wrap up, Vanessa, do you want to close off before we say thank you and goodbye to It's Not?
And if I can butt in here, in fact, I've got just the last question for both the Commissioner and Vanessa. And that would be, Vanessa, what would be your wish for the commissioner to do to make your job easier? And Astrid, I would like to ask you, what would you wish practitioners and end users to do to make your job easier? If that's a sensible question, I think.
Very sensible. Okay, do you want me to go first?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay. What I suggest, the frequently asked questions, as we see on the chat line, all those questions. If you could make it available on the website where the answers are also there, so we could refer back to it and it would assist us with our queries.
Okay. That's great. Frequently asked questions. Sure.
Yes. And that will help us, you know, that we don't, and people would not be phoning the call center or your call center all the time, because they will follow through on the answers that you had provided on that questions.
Okay. So I suppose part of me, for me, a question would be, isn't a forum like this a place where you could ask those practical questions? Because that's exactly what we tried to implement. Now, I know that you, as a practitioner, face a problem right now and you want an answer right now. And I think, I think what people maybe need to understand is that we have a lot of information. What we struggle to do is maybe package it in the right way. We've redesigned the website, put a lot of information on there. And if all the kind of information that you need is not on there, then those are the kind of questions we need to get. So I think what would be useful, actually, is if you could set all those detailed questions that you have as a practitioner, where you can't find the answers on the website. What we need to make sure is that if the answers are there, that they are more easily accessible to you, and if they're not there, that we put them on there. And then I think, from our side, what we need to do is engage, I think, largely with practitioners around the new website and the services, and how to transact with us, because I think that's where the big questions are. What would make it easier for us is when people familiarize themselves with the information that we do put out there. We find that very often practitioners don't want to read the information that's on the website. They, in fact, call us or send us emails to ask questions, and then we refer them back to the website. So I've had managers express frustration to me in this regard. And these are managers that do answer the queries that are logged with them, that do answer their emails. So they are responsive managers. Maybe what we need to do is show people where that information is. Or maybe you need to show us what information is not available, what information you really need from us. That would make it easier for you.
the training, as you suggested, earlier, that would be excellent. I'm sure, that would really help all of us.
Okay. Well, we'll prioritize that then.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, yeah, and obviously the service standards hopefully soon.
Yes, I think just registered. See you next week, Melvin. Oh, so I'm reading the chat. I'm a little bit concerned. I think I do want to get back to all these questions, and I hope when we go off air, I will still be able to answer these.
Yes, so Herman, between the two of us, maybe we can try to wrap things up for this week, because already on the website, if you go to smallbusinessconnect.co.za/CIPC, there's a link that you can click to register for next week's call at 7, where we will continue answering questions. So if we didn't get to answering questions today, we will definitely do that in the course of the coming weeks. I must also say that as Small Business Connect, we made a commitment to CIPC to, in some way, disseminate questions and come up with a, which we refer to as a user guide by users. So maybe with the help of Vanessa and other practitioners, that would become possible, so that it's kind of a easy to use guide that people that are using the system are explaining to others that are using the system what the shortcuts are and what the best way of doing things are. So there will be something that results from these 8 or so discussions that we're going to have and the questions sent in. But I must say I was quite impressed by the level of participation and the questions that we received here today. We did have 1 or 2 people that seemed to try to direct the discussion into all kinds of other directions. But yeah, if we didn't get to your questions today, we hopefully will in the next call. And if that's not possible, then it will definitely by the end of this project be captured somewhere. And so keep your eyes on the space here as a user, as a practitioner, as a business owner who has got an interest in this. And we will do our best as Small Business Connect to serve you as small business owners, and with the help of accessible people like the Commissioner, we hope that it also resolves your problems. So with that's kind of my last say for tonight, Herman. Thank you very much for facilitating this. I think you did a great job too in focusing on key questions and bringing those things together.
We try as we go along, Mr. Oosthuizen. Thank you very much, Astrid, for your time. I really appreciate it. And thank you very much equally to Vanessa and I do as well. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, as Crystal said, check out the website, smallbusinessconnect.co.za. We'll also post the registration link on Facebook for next week's show as well. So thank you very much to everyone. Your questions have been emailed to myself. We'll forward them to the Commissioner and we'll build up as we go along in the next few weeks. Thank you very much and have a beautiful evening.